Okay, are we live?
Sorry, yes, we are live. People are starting to trickle in.
We'll give it just a couple of minutes. Oh, good. We're up to 84 participants. All right, so maybe in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I know it's a busy time of year. My name is Justin Peterson. I'm a city planner with the Department of Planning and Development. I'm joined by a couple of my colleagues, John Law, Deputy Commissioner, as well as it looks like Jim Horan from the Department of Housing. We also have Alderman Taylor and her staff here, and the development teams, which will be introducing themselves tonight to the Woodlawn community. So before we begin, Alderman Taylor, did you want to say a couple of words?
Sure, thank you, Justin. Good evening, community members. I would like to thank you all for getting on tonight. I want to thank BCD for being open to a process that includes the community. I'm here to listen tonight, hear the community's concerns or support for individuals who will be working on this RFP. I'm listening and learning as well as you all. And thank you all for always showing up.
Thank you, Alderman. Okay, so just some ground rules before we get started. Everybody will be muted during the presentation, and please use the question and answer function for anything that comes to mind. Before we there will be a live question and answer period later. But if you don't want to forget something, please feel free to jot that down. When we're in the question and answer period, please raise your hand and be respectful of everybody's time and comments. The agenda for tonight, we're just going to do a very quick overview again of kind of where we are and how we got here in terms of the project site and context, as well as the RFQ / RFP process, which has been a bit unique in the case sort of parallel efforts here in Woodlawn and also in East Garfield Park. We're kind of innovating the process, trying to open it up to as many applicants and interested parties as possible. Then we'll do team introductions. Each team will have about 10 minutes to introduce themselves and tell you, really about their experience and who they are. We will have then a 30-minute community feedback session, so that there'll be prompts for those of you that are at a computer or can use your phone. You'll be able to actually live give us some feedback on some questions or some slides that we've prepared, and then an open question and answer session with the development teams able to respond, as well as DPD and DOH. So Woodlawn 63rd Street, for those of you that may be part of the working group or have attended some public meetings prior to now, you should be pretty familiar with this. We've met about half a dozen times or so in the last several months. This really began as a conversation with Alderman Taylor before my time, more than a year ago, several years ago, about how to address affordability concerns in Woodlawn, of course, with the location of the Obama Presidential Center, and working with the Alderman's office. And we arrived, and the Woodlawn Working Group, we arrived at a couple of focus areas where we believed we have opportunity to provide a couple of different types of housing on city-owned land and in a parallel process with our colleagues in DOH. So the red box is an outline of the RFA. That's a request for applications area. So that would be for smaller scale infill housing, and that's a program that DOH has launched. And that's not the focus of tonight's meeting, but it is a parallel effort, and it's really meant to address home ownership by providing both affordable homes and two flat opportunities. The RFQ, which we're talking about tonight, is identified by the and this is actually a larger area of future planning efforts identified by the black kind of outline here. And that's really an area where the city has a critical mass of large development sites where we have mostly site control over most of these blocks, and where we can basically set up larger developments that are able to provide mixed income housing with a large affordable housing component, about 1/3 of the units being affordable at 60% AMI or lower, and including some deeply affordable units at 30% AMI. Those projects are largely funded through the low income housing tax credit program, which has a kind of sweet spot in terms of the size of these buildings, number of units, and so forth. So these sites are a bit higher density, and would conceivably have larger, slightly larger mid-rise buildings, but essentially the same scale as Park Station, which everybody in Woodlawn may be familiar with, or also Woodlawn Station, which is already complete. So the idea then, and we've really, this is a kind of long-term vision for how to build out the corridor. And as we started getting into this process, we realized, we couldn't bite off all of these sites at once. The LIHTC funding rounds, and there's also a parallel funding round through the state, are only every other year, which means that it would take a long time to actually build out this corridor through those funding mechanisms. So it did make sense to kind of put out an RFP for proposals that we couldn't fund 10 years, or for possibly 10 years down the line. So we wanted to focus on what we're calling site 1 and site 2 here between Ingleside and Greenwood. And we gave the respondents the option of choosing between one of those two sites. But what we're really talking about is the development of the first building, with the idea that hopefully we could start setting up a pipeline where a second building could follow relatively quickly. And of course, the big idea here is to leverage existing investments that have already been made in the neighborhood on 63rd Street to begin to really create a new neighborhood center with active street life, active ground floor uses, bringing back many of the amenities and the retail uses that Woodlawn so sorely needs, as we know, and to promote, of course, walkability and transit-oriented development. This again is just a long-term kind of time frame for how long it might take to fund each of these projects. I do want to address one thing, because I've been hearing rumors of people thinking that there are 500-unit buildings coming to 63rd Street. That's not the case. What you see on the screen right now is a maximum kind of build-out potential based off of what we think the zoning would allow, what we've discussed with our zoning department in terms of, a base designation and transit-oriented bonuses. But that's not the same thing as what is feasible from a financial perspective. And in fact, the buildings that we may see proposed may be considerably less than that. So anywhere between perhaps 50 and 100 units per building. And again, this is all about restoring the idea of the 15-minute neighborhood, that all of your essential needs can be met within walking distance, as opposed to having to hop in a car and drive either up to Hyde Park or further south for basic goods and services. And of course, this has been really a focus of Mayor Lightfoot's Invest Southwest initiative. And the whole idea, and if this is kind of building off of the Invest Southwest projects themselves, is to leverage public dollars to help spur private investment in these neighborhoods, which again is so desperately needed. So, these are examples of previous RFP winners across the south and west sides. Each of these projects is a little different in different circumstances, different neighborhoods, but it gives you an idea or a flavor of the kind of scale and kind of activity that we would like to see here in Woodlawn. The process, really quickly, again, the Invest Southwest were started as RFPs, where the development teams would come forward with proposals. We felt that put a lot of pressure or upfront costs on development teams and architects in order to be able to basically spend the money to put together a full proposal, to actually propose a design, a building design, and work out the program and so forth. And rather than doing that, we wanted to kind of set up an earlier stage, which we call a request for qualifications, where basically development and architecture firms submit their qualifications, which is essentially an expanded resume. And then that allows basically more firms to apply without having to burden those or to bear those upfront costs. We then created a short list and of both design teams and development teams, and then allowed them to basically set up their own pairing, their own team. So typically a developer would come with their own architect. In this case, we encouraged pairs that may not have been something that we would have seen. So we had about 40 design teams submit their applications, and about 4 development teams. And again, this is just outlining that this was the initial release of the RFQ over the summer, identifying again site 1 and site 2. The sites north of, if we're looking down in the lower right-hand corner, if you can see my cursor, the sites north of 63rd Street, there are a couple of privately owned pins. So those need further acquisition, which we're working on as a department to unlock those sites for future development. This shows you a timeline. Basically, stage 1 was that pre-submission call over the summer. RFQ responses were due mid-September. And then we had a jury to evaluate it and determine a short list. The teams were given essentially the month of October to pair. And then they've started working together on a proposal in November. So we're here at this community touch point. We were trying to make this earlier in the schedule, but obviously there's a lot going on, so it's difficult to get everybody's schedules to align. But we're glad that we were able to do this certainly before the holidays. And then the proposals will be due on the 11th of January. The videos, each team is being asked to submit a video of their proposal in addition to documents. Those will be posted on the city's website so that community members who aren't able to otherwise, let's say, attend a public meeting such as this can review those on their own time and provide feedback. We also have a website set up, which we'll get to later, where you are currently and will be able to until this process is over to post feedback in the kind of spirit of the we will. So we hope to have arrive at a winning proposal by late January, early February. The evaluation committee will have community representation on it. We'll work with Alderman Taylor's office to establish who that will be. But that's, again, just the beginning of this community engagement process. Just because we have a winning proposal doesn't mean there won't be many more opportunities for community feedback in order to shape these projects and to be the sort of catalytic developments that we hope they will be. Okay, so try to get through that quickly. With that, we will move on to the team introductions. We are going to, actually, this works out fine. So John, Ronan, and the Evergreen Imagine group will present first. So I will turn it over to team 1.
Tori, do you have the slideshow, or do I need to do the slideshow?
Yeah, I don't have the slideshow. If you can go ahead and pull up, that's great.
I have it, David, if you want.
Yeah, I've got it. Since you may need to leave, why don't I drive? So actually, if somebody could enable my sharing, and I will. Thank you. All right, Tori, why don't you take it away?
Sure. First of all, thank you, everyone who joined this evening. We're honored and privileged to be shortlisted for this opportunity, and looking forward to working with the community as we have done in the past. My name is Tori Barrett. I'm a principal in Imagine Development Group. We're a minority development firm located on the south side of Chicago. And I'll let the rest of the team introduce themselves as we go through the slide. But as as we get started, there's a common theme that we're going to talk about, and you're here, this ownership and execution. Our team has, we were excited to be a part of Invest Southwest. We were chosen as the developer for the Alston neighborhood, the Auburn Gresham neighborhood, and we are about a week and a half away from closing on that development. And so we're just excited to be the first Invest Southwest group that is closing on their project. And so, that's we're proud of that, the fact that we can execute, and we're looking forward to doing the same thing here in the Woodlawn community. For me personally, I've been working in Woodlawn all my life. I'm 48 years old, grew up in South Shore. I have two nonprofits that focus particularly on the south side of Chicago. One is called the Clio Center. It's a nonprofit that I started after losing a baby sister to the senseless gun violence that's out here. And now we employ about 300 youth a year between the ages of 16 and 20 through 24. The second organization is called Emerald South CDC, which I founded and I'm a board member of. I'm proud that Guion Foreman is the executive director of that organization. And that organization focuses on South Shore, Woodlawn, and Washington Park. And so, I'm a South Sider, and I'm looking forward to working with this team that you see here to bring an innovative development to Woodlawn. We have a history of working with community organizations. We've worked a lot with Dr. Brazian, the network of Woodlawn, and prior to his passing, Dr. Finney. And so, we know the neighborhood. We know what working with individuals look like. We don't start with just development. We look at the physical development, but also the human capital development is just as important as the physical development, in our opinion. David, I'm not sure if you want to talk about the rest of the team, but David Block, who is part of Evergreen, will talk a little bit. My other business partner, Fred Spencer, and then we have John Ronan and the rest of the architectural team.
Yeah, maybe Fred, why don't you introduce yourself first?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Fred Spencer, as Tori said, one of the principals of the Imagine Group. Actually, I'm a former resident of Woodlawn, so I know essentially what the residents of Woodlawn go through. Actually, my former house is adjacent to the property, one of the lots that we are intending to build on. So my background is in real estate and finance. I've been in real estate for over close to 15 years. I also, along with my wife, and which was started actually in Woodlawn, when we owned the house on 63rd and Ellis, we started a company called IO Foods, which is a West African inspired food brand. And we've been kind of, along with the real estate ventures that we've done, also managed that business for the last 3 years. And that's had a lot of success, grown from 50 Whole Food stores into close to 5,200 doors today. We actually, with the merger of Kroger's and Joe Osco, you should see our product in the Jewel that's located on Cottage Grove pretty soon. So very excited about this project. Looking forward to working with the community, and can't wait to get started. Thank you.
And David, right before you go, one other thing I want to mention too, Fred and I are both putting businesses in the Auburn Gresham neighborhood that we are closing on in a couple of weeks. And we have created an ownership opportunity for the residents in Auburn Gresham to actually be owners of one of the businesses. And so we plan on doing that, staying with that same model here in Woodlawn as well.
Yeah, actually, IO's headquarters will be going in one of the locations on one of the buildings in Auburn Gresham. So we're looking forward to that space as well. So.
Thank you, Tori and Fred. And I'm David Block. I'm Director of Development at Evergreen Real Estate. I'm going to run through actually some of these slides so we can stay on time. This is the Clio Arts Lofts building. Tori developed this. And I think in the interest of time, let's move through this. But the Park Supper Club restaurant that he developed here, and actually is a similar model in terms of providing opportunities for ownership stakes in the restaurant business, is the same model that we're looking at in Auburn Gresham. Evergreen Real Estate is a 20-year-old Chicago-based developer, owner, manager of multifamily housing, in almost, but not entirely affordable housing. So we have most of what we do is affordable housing. We work with all the agencies. We know all the programs. This is our OSO apartments project in Albany Park. We've done 2 of the 3 library housing projects on the north side. In my previous life, I spent 12 years working at the community builders. So I spent a lot of time working on the Oakwood Shores community in North Kenwood, Oakland. I was the lead developer on the Shops and Lofts at 47 project, a little further up Cottage Grove from this site. You know, I've really enjoyed working with Tori and Fred. They're great partners. I think we have a strong partnership, and we've proven, and we're now a week and a half away, as he said, of starting construction, of being able to have those honest conversations with the community. You know, you probably have read some of the community conversations in Auburn Gresham were pretty direct. But I think in the end, the community saw what we were trying to do and appreciated that we actually were trying to do something good. This is a rendering of what we're talking about on 63rd Street, or on 79th Street, I should say. This is the Auburn Gresham project that will be starting soon. We don't have a design for you today for 63rd Street because this is really the beginning of the conversation. But we do have our architects here. So I'll let John and his team introduce themselves. So John, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thanks, Fred and Tori. I'm John Ronan. I'm founding principal of John Ronan Architects, Chicago-based architect. Started the firm 25 years ago. Next slide. We built award-winning projects all across the south and west sides of Chicago in that time. Christ the King Jesuit College Prep in Austin, Erie Elementary Charter School in Humboldt Park, the Gary Comer Youth Center and Gary Comer College Prep in Grand Crossing. Next, South Shore International College Prep in the South Shore neighborhood, and we were the only Chicago-based firm in the Obama Presidential Center competition. Next. A few of our more well-known buildings, recent buildings. This is the IIT Innovation Center on the IIT campus. This is the Poetry Foundation building in the River North neighborhood. This is a building that's currently under construction and due to be finished in a couple of months. It's the Chicago Park District headquarters, which also includes a field house in a 17-acre park on a former brownfield site. Next slide. And then lastly, this is the building we did with David Block in Evergreen. This is the Independence Library and Affordable Housing. It's 44 units of affordable housing for seniors over a 16,000 square foot public branch library. And we created a public park on the back side over the parking, which you see in that image on the upper left. Next slide. So a design for the project that we're talking about, we think should take about a year. And it starts with DPT's announcement. Excuse me. DPT's announcement in early February. And then there'll be a series of community meetings and steering committee meetings where we will take in input from the community. Those would start in March. We would go for permit in the third quarter of next year. There will be a community contractor fair next November, and then we issue bid documents in late November with a construction start in the first quarter of 2024. So now I'm going to turn it over to our design partner, Manisha Kaul at Design Workshop.
Thank you, John. Good evening, everybody. Design Workshop is a firm that was really born out of the pursuit of ideas. We are a landscape architecture, planning, and community engagement firm that works across the nation and also internationally, creating places for people, places that people can relate to, places where people have equitable access to open space and landscape and health and well-being. Next slide. As I said, we are really creators of urban spaces and places for people. And we've worked across, next slide, please, across the United States, from downtown Wheaton to Northwest Detroit to Lafitte Greenway Corridor in New Orleans, creating places and connecting people together through landscapes and open spaces. And we're extremely honored and grateful to be part of this design team to help create a similar vision for the Woodlawn community going forward. Thank you.
And that's it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, David. Okay, again, so we're running a little bit behind, but so we will continue with the next team, Team 2. Team 2 is provided a video, which I will play for their introduction. Okay. Can everybody see my screen? That is a yes.
We can't hear the audio.
Oh,
Yeah, Justin, you may have to reshare to allow for the audio.
got it.
Yeah, there's a little chat box when you share again.
Let me try. Sorry about this, folks. I'm not, David, can you perhaps help with this? I'm not seeing how to do that.
How to
Hey,
how to make the audio work?
Yeah,
It should
So
be
when
the-
you click-
the Zoom dialog, Justin, when you click the green share screen button, there's a little checkbox in the top to say enable computer audio.
Yep. Yeah, I can't remember if it's on the top or the bottom, but it's in one of the corners.
got it. Okay, I think we're good now.
Our team of celebrated community builders consists of Michaels and DL3 Realty, Canopy, Teeple Architects, and community partner Sunshine Enterprises. The strength of our team is in our combined experience and communal approach. Our collective process and focus on community engagement celebrate our wide range of perspectives and experiences to bring the best design thinking and diverse voices together.
Michaels Development Company is a 50-year-old affordable housing developer, and our mission is really to lift lives, lift people's lives with the housing that we create. We're one of the nation's largest affordable housing developers with properties across the country that we own and manage. Michaels and DL3 recently closed on a Park Station project in Woodlawn, which was the culmination of really a 35-year journey, which started freshman year of college for both Leon Walker, DL3, and myself. We met early on in college and subsequently lost track of each other until we came back together about 35 years later and put together a project in Woodlawn. Michaels has been working in Chicago since 2000. We've developed nearly 2,000 units of affordable housing ranging from mixed income, mixed use, SRO, historic preservation, family housing, elderly housing, all affordable. Michaels has a really robust track record in diverse general contracting and subcontracting. We've worked obviously over the past 20 years to develop some strong relationships with both JV general contracting situations as well as minority contracting. We've awarded over $130 million in subcontracts to minority-owned firms in Chicago. And one example of that is 4400 Grove, which was completed in 2020, where we awarded 40% of the subcontracts to African-American subcontractors. We've hired over 130 residents of low-income communities as laborers, painters, carpenters. We've had great success in getting individuals enrolled in various unions.
At DL3, the ethos, the real force behind our work is community engagement at the center of our visioning processes. We really like the community to give us feedback, to be engaged, to help us understand a project as it evolves over time. DL3 Realty today focuses on 3 strategies. One is our placemaking strategy, which is led by our affordable housing work. The other is our Woodlawn strategy, where we're doing a lot of things in Woodlawn. We've currently invested over $100 million in the Woodlawn community in projects ranging from grocery stores, the new Julasco, new Friend Health Medical Clinic, our Park Station development with our partners, Michael's Development, and we have retail, also some hospitality, and we're working on the Washington Park Bank Building, which is at the intersection of 63rd and Cottage. We have an initiative to bring 10,000 jobs to the neighborhoods of Chicago by the end of the decade, and we've created 3,000 or 4,000 jobs in the last 2 years here in the city. We engage local businesses and existing residents in the process of investment so that they can benefit, they can get jobs, their businesses get contracts. We're working with other developers to do infill development. We're creating spaces, retail spaces, where entrepreneurs can get started. We're investing in live, work, lofts. This transition gives people who didn't really have an opportunity to start out and strike out on their own now an opportunity to do that without, taking on the financial burden or risk of a separate office space. All of this concentrated investment at scale is intended to create a positive ripple effect that emanates out into the community.
Park Station Lofts is a partnership between Michael's and DL3 down the block on 63rd Street, housing 58 residential units and ground floor retail space marketed to local entrepreneurs. Another project is Michael's 4400 Grove project in Bronzeville. This 84-unit complex has a significant retail component fronting along Cottage Grove Avenue. All 8 retail spaces were leased to Black-owned businesses, including the successful Bronzeville Winery. And most of the businesses are open and prospering.
I joined DL3 in 2020 in order to start up its residential practice. We began with a partnership with Michael's organization on Park Station and are growing out the platform to include numerous independent projects throughout Woodlawn and the south and southwest sides. Through our current and future developments, we're addressing critical action items that have come out of Woodlawn's planning efforts, including supporting existing residents and avoiding displacement, expanding housing choice, including affordable housing, home ownership, and intergenerational housing. Our community wealth building efforts include engaging with Sunshine Enterprises, which is an outstanding organization that focuses on entrepreneurship and dovetails with our efforts to engage with local entrepreneurs.
Sunshine Enterprises grew out of Sunshine Gospel Ministries that was looking at how do we address the lack of work in our communities, pairing folks up with mentors, helping them access marketplace opportunities specific for their industry.
I wish people knew how desperately people from the south and west sides of Chicago in particular want to build up the south and west sides of Chicago.
I am humbled to represent Sunshine Enterprises as the nonprofit partner for Park Station. We're excited to be a key stakeholder and community member in a development that not only provides much needed affordable housing, but also brings resources that unlock and empower a tremendous force to community transformation. And that's entrepreneurship and small business ownership.
Canopy was founded in 2009 based on the notion that architecture can be used as a vehicle for positive change. Growing up in Chicago on the south side, realizing that the lack of resources throughout the city, the idea that architecture really can help elevate our communities in a more positive and meaningful way was very important to us. With Michael's, we've had a really great experience in working together on a number of projects, particularly in housing in Chicago. Albany Gaines is a twin site project that we've been navigating for the past few years in the spirit of building equity in housing and really enhancing the opportunities for the residents and neighborhood members as a whole. Working with TPOL, Canopy, we see ourselves as a set of architects that carry a lot of shared ideologies and sensibilities So imagining a partnership in design where we're building thoughts together, where even though it's two firms geographically, one in Chicago, one in Toronto, but as a whole, we're able to build synergies that translate to catalytic change. One project that comes to mind is the Oso Apartments. Oso Apartments is in the edge of Albany Park on the northwest side. The idea that an 100% affordable housing development could really become a symbol for both resiliency, environmental stewardship, and really community as a whole.
Our approach is really collaborative, and we believe in the collective design process of bringing diverse voices into the space where we design and bring the best ideas together for the better of the project. Here at Canopy, we're active listeners and believe in a research-based approach to uncover the existing context, valuable assets, and the unique qualities of a community. With mentorship, we really like to uplift the voices of all the team members in the firm. Here at Canopy, we're heavily involved in the design community at large. We are excited about the opportunity to bring on a Woodlawn resident and/or student to be able to be a part of our office design process.
Hi, I'm Stephen Teepole. I am the president of Teepole Architects here in Toronto. We are a diverse, multicultural firm, been practicing for 30 some odd years in multiple fields, including housing. Our first foray into affordable housing was 60 Richmond here in Toronto, and it's a project that won us numerous accolades. A lot of the innovation for the project, well, there's definitely technical innovation, but it was also about how you create a sense of community. Chicago is certainly one of my favorite cities in North America. It really is, I would say for sure, the most beautiful city in all of North America, a very heroic and beautiful, beautiful place. The real opportunity of an exciting project such as this is that it can bring people together, both through the process and through the spaces it creates. And we're particularly excited to work in Chicago, a place with great architectural history. We can't wait to connect with the Woodlawn community.
We see a great opportunity to stitch 63rd back together as community public space, to animate that space and bring it to life. It truly is the right thing to do and is full of so much potential.
Great, thank you. So again, in the interest of time, we will move on to team 3. That's POA, KMW, and Koning Eisenberg.
Sure, let me get the slides up. Is my screen visible?
No.
Hello?
No.
Not yet.
No.
What about now?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, we can see it.
Oh, great. Well, we're also honored to be here tonight. This has been a long journey. We've been investing in Woodlawn for like the last 10, 12 years, maybe longer, alongside with POA, who's our partner in this, and also Tandem Ventures. So for those who are here on the team now on the call, might please introduce yourself. I think we're missing a few people, but those who are on there, mind lending your voice.
Sure, I'll go first. Hi, my name is Bill Eager, Senior Vice President at POA, and I lead our Chicago work and of course our Woodlawn work. I don't know if Claudia is on. I'm joined by 2 of my colleagues. I know at least one of whom is under the weather, Felicia Dawson, whom many of you know. She is our Vice President for Community Engagement and Strategic Partnerships. And she and I have been working side by side in Woodlawn for the last dozen years, but she's a little under the weather. Also, I'm not sure if she's on, but even if she is or she isn't, is Claudia Rodriguez, who is our senior construction project manager, and she leads all of our construction and design work for our Chicago portfolio. Thank you.
So also the architect team is Connie Eisenberg. You guys mind introducing yourselves?
Sure. My name's Julie Eisenberg. I live in LA. Some days I'd like to rather live in Chicago, but you don't get a choice in all of that. We're really enjoying learning Chicago and glad to be part of this team. Susan, you want to go next? Because Nathan
Sure.
again is under the weather. There's a lot of stuff going around.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Susan King. I'm a principal with HED based in our Chicago office. We are a national practice, but our Chicago office has been here for a little over 40 years. And we've had a housing and mixed use have been, and community design really has been a focus of our work over those years, and in fact working in a lot of the communities that Invest Southwest as a whole has been focusing on now. So we are delighted to be part of this team. Thank you.
So it's Tawana, are you there? I'd like to introduce yourself, and then I'd like to go back to introducing myself formally.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. Tawana Tang, president of Tandem Ventures. We will be lending our community relations and compliance expertise to the team and continue leveraging our experience engaging and creating opportunities in the Woodlawn community. So providing employment opportunities and creating career paths through apprentice sponsorships for residents and greatly maximizing those commitments made to MBE, WBE firms beyond the standard, and also ensuring the workforce greatly reflects the community. So our work began in Woodlawn with POA on the Woodlawn Station project. We've also done work on Joel Osco Woodlawn as well. We are also participating on this team as co-developers.
Thanks, Tawana. Yes, my name is Bill Williams again. I'm a principal at KMW. My background is in finance and economics and real estate. We started romanticizing about Woodlawn back in 2006. I purchased my first condo rehab at 6417 South Maryland. And ever since, we've been revisiting the neighborhood. We've assembled land to try to create more housing options to help grease the wheels on development and more importantly, improve the density. And so we've been at this for a while, working side by side with POA. And we're also partners with Powers and Sons, who I don't think they're on the call, but I'd like to turn it over to Bill to kind of highlight some of the developments that we've been working together on over the last decade.
There's a representative from Powers and Sons on the call.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Tim.
Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my name is Tim Irvin. I'm with Powers and Sons. My title is Director of Strategic Initiatives. One of the responsibilities, business development, as well as community engagement. And I'm familiar with the Woodlawn area, resident of Chicago. I actually grew up on the west side, but very familiar with the Woodlawn area and all the things that's happening over there.
Thanks, Tim. Bill, do you mind highlighting some of our accomplishments in Woodlawn, specifically the things that POA has done?
Sure. Thanks, Bill. And thanks, Tim. And thanks to everyone for joining tonight's presentations. It's a pretty exciting time. So for anyone who's not familiar with POA, POA stands for Preservation of Affordable Housing Incorporated. We're a developer of affordable housing and in mixed-use properties. We've been around a little more than 20 years. We currently have developed about 13,000 apartments. We're in a bunch of states, 11 states, plus the District of Columbia. I've been particularly focused on the Chicago market for the last dozen years. In fact, POA's work in Chicago started with Woodlawn, with the acquisition of what is no longer there, but was at the time a very troubled property known as Grove Park Plaza along Cottage Grove Avenue from 60th to 63rd Street. And that was the work that brought us to Chicago. And since that time, we've developed a little more than 1,000 mixed income units in Chicago. We've either developed or partnered to develop, close to 100,000 square feet of new commercial and community spaces. we've essentially, again, with partners, rebuilt Cottage Grove from 60th to 63rd Streets. And, we're very, very invested in Woodlawn, obviously. We think what's happening now in Woodlawn is incredibly exciting, and this opportunity, the property in question here, presents an opportunity to extend that. Bill, can you go back a couple slides? Just a couple of highlights between us and Bill and our companies. One more, if you could. Oh, even another one. There we go. So in that time, we've invested, about $500 million of our money and leveraged money, of course, to do the work that we've jointly been able to accomplish in that time. We have, in all that time, pursued what we consider growth without displacement, right? So we want to do good work. We want to do work that raises up a community, but we want to do it in a way that does not drive displacement. And we think to date we've been very successful in that. We completed our Grove Park redevelopment without a single person being displaced. So we're very, very proud of that. I mentioned the number of affordable units and an increasing focus on economic development. We've done a couple of mixed-use buildings. We also own a property at the intersection of 63rd and Cottage that we're trying to line up for something exciting. So for us, 63rd Street is just kind of an extension of that work for us and for KMW, who, as Bill mentioned, we've been working side by side in Woodlawn for years, and always thought, we got to figure out a way to do something together. And so we are working on another property on the west side. So this was, sort of a natural next step for that partnership. We've also worked with Tawana, and we, are excited to work with her again. And so I think 63rd Street, one of the things that we think is exciting about this opportunity is that, there's a lot of excitement and investment going on around 63rd and Cottage Grove and that portion of Woodlawn. And there's an awful lot of discussion and work going on along Stony Island right now. And I think what happens in this stretch of 63rd Street presents an opportunity to kind of knit those together, and really, create a vibrant corridor that cuts across Woodlawn. And I think it will open up other opportunities, west of Cottage Grove and elsewhere in the community when we can start filling in the land that's there on 63rd Street. I'm also, unfortunately, as I mentioned, Felicia Dawson is out a little bit under the weather, but Felicia is our Director of Community Engagement. She and I have been working together in Woodlawn for a long time, and she leads our community effort, our community engagement effort. We take that very, very seriously. We consider ourselves not just developers and property owners and managers, but we consider ourselves to be, an important part of the community. Felicia lives in Woodlawn. And so our engagement with not only the people who live in our buildings, but who live in the community in which we do our work, we think those relationships are critical. And, we intend to sort of honor and continue that work, should we be selected to proceed on 63rd Street.
Thanks, Bill.
Sure.
So what's shown here is one of the projects Bill referenced. It's also an Invest Southwest project that we're partnering on the west side. We're going through our entitlement process and some of our environmental work now. We're hoping to close on this probably late next year. And as Bill said, we've been investing side by side in the neighborhood. This is a recent project that we've completed on 62nd and Greenwood, and we have other scattered sites around the site to help with the homeownership option. And we also committed to affordable housing too. This is a building that we got renovated. It was just highlighted in a national magazine for leveraging CDFI dollars to produce condo quality affordable housing. And this is another project that's scheduled for next year. And so we've been committed to this community for over a decade, and KMW's personally invested millions in personal dollars and private dollars. And we're just fortunate that the city is now helping with a lot of the heavy lifting along 63rd Street. And I'd like the architects to jump back in, talk a little bit about the opportunity and the vision for 63rd Street.
Well, it's quite an opportunity because it's the catalyst project that can kickstart a really energetic street. And there's enough sites in play over time that we can really do something. We know it's about creating equity. We know it's about creating activity. And we know it's about creating places where people want to live and where they want to come and hang out. That's pushed the developer, which is really interesting from our point of view, to want to experiment more. They think we can think about this harder. We can do more than we've done before. And we're really honored to be part of that effort. Next. We've done a lot of housing and affordable housing in Los Angeles. The focus of our business is strengthening neighborhoods and rebuilding neighborhoods. This is a project on Santa Monica Boulevard with retail and housing above. Next. There we go. So here we are at Vermont Santa Monica Station, envisioning the future in 2 years. We're already in construction. And this was a barren Metro subway plaza. And we're going to revive it with affordable housing that will surround it. And it's workforce housing, and it will create 200 housing units as well as open space for residents and really enhance the station area. And if you have a look at the next image, you'll see where we're going. And it's quite an undertaking, and it was done together with the MTA, which is our local transportation authority. And this is the kind of work we love to do. We're looking forward to meeting people in the community if we move forward. And we're looking to give you a vision that makes you optimistic and proud, and even prouder, from what I can tell, of being a Woodlawn resident. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. So our philosophy and our guiding principles are basically, it's an inclusive growth. So whatever we do, we're thinking about community first, and we're prioritizing communities, and we're also working on preservations and aligning resources and designing towards that goal. And so, as I said, about 6 or 7 years ago, I was working with Gensler just on a vision for Woodlawn, because I romanticized about it because it had all the assets that a community needs. It had the lakefront transportation. There's hardly any neighborhoods in the city that has a metro line and a green line, and the Lakeshore Drive as an artery. And so this image just shows the potential of Woodlawn. And here's another image that shows that 63rd Street as a commercial corridor. As Bill Eager mentioned, it can be a hub for economic opportunity and growth that creates an ecosystem, is what, Jason was talking about earlier, Justin, I'm sorry, about how do we create these 15-minute cities. I was in Europe for all of August, and I saw it in action, how you have 15-minute cities where you have everything you need, which makes the neighborhood or community a choice, So every neighborhood should have community a choice, to have all the things that they need in the within walking distance. And here's another image of the potential. It's not baked in stone yet, it's just potential. And so we think that this neighborhood is going through a renaissance, and we're fortunate and we're blessed to be a part of it. And so we're just open to suggestions from the community, and we love, feedback and the opportunity to help continue our work here.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Okay, so with that, let me reshare. And so now we're to the interactive portion. We are again running behind on time, but we will make sure that we have plenty of opportunity to do this. We have a platform now that we're using called Mentimeter. And this will allow everyone to respond in real time. So if you can go to the website here, www.menti.com, or use the QR code on the screen and enter in the code, that will allow us to view responses to the next several slides in real time. So I will give everybody a moment to do that. Let's see if I And then if we move to the first page, if everyone is able to get to that site, the first prompt is in one word, how would you describe Woodlawn? And if you type in your response on the slide, it should show up on this screen. Looks like I'm not getting any responses quite yet.
I think there's an
Exhibit.
issue with it. It's reverting back to Garfield Park.
Okay, yeah, well, these are the same.
The Q&A.
Are people able to post? This is weird, yeah. This should be a separate is no one's able to post? Is it okay? Maybe we need to come back to this.
It's possible you may need a new QR code, Justin.
Yeah, we set this up earlier. It should have worked. My apologies. All right, let's move to the question and answer session and try to come back to this, since we already have a number of questions in the chat. First, I would like to point out to everyone, those of you that may have joined us for some of our earlier community meetings with the Alderman's office, we mentioned that we've set up a We Will site. I mean, it's under the We Will banner, but it's essentially a new landing page, and it's in a similar, for anybody who participated in We Will, it's basically allows you to post your thoughts, almost like a Facebook page. Let me see if I can bring up the page itself. So this is what it looks like. And this is, if you follow that link, this is where it will take you. And then it's very easy to just add an idea and even upload a picture. So this is something we would like to encourage everybody to do. And this will be open throughout the next month or so as we continue to hope to get feedback from the community as the teams finalize their proposals. Okay. So sorry, we need to adjust here.
Justin, why don't you work on the Menti issue, and David and I moderate and start doing some Q&A.
Okay.
Pull these up.
I'm going to stop sharing so I can try to fix this.
Okay. Why don't we start with people that have raised their hand, if that's all right. Let's see who we have here. It looks like Willie Cochran, if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question. David, do we have to allow them to speak, or there we go?
Yeah, I just did it.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for the opportunities to speak. I've submitted some information to the DPD about this development, and I want to say hello to Alderman Taylor, give honor to her, and as well as the mayor and leadership of the DPD. As you know, I've been in resident of Woodlawn over 40 years and have worked on some visioning and development projects that have come to fruition in the Woodlawn community. And for many, many years, I'm interested in how our community continues to thrive, and as well as those developers that are coming into the community to do the work that is to be done. Some of the things that I've been submitted to the Department of Planning is the concept of shared or cooperative housing, where it could be affordable and it also provides ownership. The other aspects of our community that I'm very much interested in is the TIF on availability of funds for development and the use of those funds, and developers that use those funds and selling properties that those funds are used for. And if the city has a provision in place to ensure that those funds are returned to the TIFs and the funding institutions that provided them for the development to take place if a project is sold. I look forward to having further discussions and reviewing this project as we look forward, working with those people who have submitted information and working with the alderman and the mayor's office and the Department of Planning and the visioning and review, and as we move forward in this process. Thank you very much for the time to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran. Unless any of the developers want to respond to that directly, we can keep going here. David Zagaye, I got that right, hopefully. Looks like you're up next.
Hello there. Yeah, so there was a recent investigative article that showed that many national investors have been buying up homes and apartments all across the South Side, with Woodlawn being one of the more harder impacted neighborhoods. And you know, that's a loss of a lot of housing, specifically affordable housing, and that's pushing a lot of Woodlawn residents off their homes. So why aren't we pushing for denser, more like higher density, more affordable units for these proposals? Why is 100 units considered the high end when we should be aiming for higher?
Justin, I don't know if you want to speak to that relative to the Woodlawn housing ordinance or not. And there also, you know, there are, I think, multiple factors here as well. You know, certainly the department is certainly not afraid of density by any means. There are sort of other considerations to consider with these projects, including what the right scale of development is that can support affordable housing tax credits from DOH and other factors as well. So Justin, go ahead. I think you're better to speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially right. I mean, you know, we've looked at this from a zoning perspective. You know, the kind of early massing that I think people may have seen at previous community meetings was really about what is the kind of volume that our zoning department thinks is appropriate here, and density, which would be a B33 base designation, which is pretty consistent with corridors like this across the city. And our intention was to avoid, or for these developments to be able to avoid having to do a PD essentially, which there's also a threshold there at 80 units. Now they could, if they want to propose more units, go for that. But in working with our colleagues in DOH, we tend to see these buildings more in the sort of 50 to 80, sometimes upwards of 100 units. But a lot of it, as John said, is dependent on the tax credit deal and how that shakes out. And the development teams are I would say even more the experts on that. But that's the broad response. And unfortunately, and maybe there's a future time where developments of this scale can happen without that kind of support. But at this moment, that's our primary means of from the city side being able to provide some subsidy.
Okay, Justin, it seems like the Menti is back on track now. Is that working now? You're on mute there.
Sorry, we can try again. Yeah, let me.
If you have your hands up, go ahead and keep those up. We'll come back and circle around on comments after this engagement session.
Okay, let me share my screen again. Okay, so let's see if we can try this again. Let me know if everybody's able to log on and post. There we go.
Will you go back, Justin? I think some people might have missed that new QR code. And then let's go ahead and put the code in the okay. The code's also in the chat if anyone needs that.
Okay, so it's not showing up live, but I'm going to bring up the actual website. So hopefully we can see it that way. Are others having difficulty?
Yeah, I think don't use the QR code. I just tried it on my phone and it sent me somewhere else. So I would go to the website and then put in the code. I think that is maybe working a little bit better.
I think the code is still old also, Justin. It's taking us to the picture preference.
Okay. I apologize. Yeah, let me keep working on this.
Well, there's quite a few questions we can start getting through, Justin. So we can depending on how time goes here, we can start to just answer some of these. We can pivot here a little bit to a couple of the written questions, just to keep things balanced here. One question: what will be done to provide parking spaces for retail and residential units? That will be up to the developers. This is part of the new ETOD ordinance zone. So by code or by zoning code, no parking will be required. However, developers will likely choose to provide some level of parking, both for residents and any retail users as well.
Just really quickly, a slight correction on that, John. It is 50%.
Oh, it is here.
Yeah.
All right.
So the ETOD takes it to 50%. You are allowed to get adjusted to 0, but by like basically as of right, it's 50%.
Thank you.
So 0.5 versus 1 per unit.
Will we see more retail focused on grocers or renters such as CVS or Target on these joint commercial and residential sites? I'll defer to any of the development teams that'd like to comment on that if they would like to, or Justin, if you want to jump in.
So one thing I'll say is that we've definitely heard in many community meetings that the need for all kinds of retail, including grocery. I think we're a little early in the process to know exactly what those retail spaces will be, but it's something that certainly we've communicated to the development teams, and I think we'll have to see how it develops. It may, again, a lot of this will come down to feasibility, but certainly each of these sites is big enough to have a substantial retail component if that's feasible, and perhaps as we get more of a critical mass of housing on the corridor, those retail spaces could grow in scale and kind. Looks like Greg maybe has a
Justin, it's David Block. Greg's got his hand up too.
You can go ahead, David.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we've talked about this as a team, and it's going to come down to not just resources, but each of these sites, site 1, site 2, whatever, is not a huge site by itself. So there will be a push and pull between parking and the amount of retail and the amount of resources that the DPD or the state or others are willing to make available to this. And so we're going to have to kind of optimize all of those dimensions, and really the best place for that to happen is in conversation with the neighborhood. So I'm not sure that we certainly don't have an answer today, but we'd like to, at least our approach is to try to be flexible and expect that there'll be some further conversations with the community about what the priorities here really are.
Yeah, and I think I agree with 100% on that. I mean, these are not huge sites, and something as large in scale as a Target or a CVS is going to require significant amount of parking, which is going to be probably impossible to deliver on a site of this size. But I do think there are creative solutions to thinking about different options and working with the community to identify good solutions and good end users and good parking solutions for those end users.
All right, thank you both. Let's do one more written question here. Being that this is a phased or as a development project over time, will one team or development firm be responsible for the entire project, all phases, or will there be other calls for plans? The intent, we are selecting, the city is planning to support one development site in this round. And that's what we can commit to at this time. Obviously, this is a long-term build out, as you mentioned. We would definitely open up future rounds of development in subsequent calls for development. Hopefully there's some really great ideas that come out in this effort here. So even a firm that isn't selected as the winner of this proposal perhaps could get tabled to a future round of support in a subsequent year or a future development opportunity. But we're committing to one site at this time, and we do as a department want to have a variety of developers and design firms involved in all different stages of the process. Okay, let's maybe switch back here for a little bit to the people with their hands up. Dwayne Bailey, I think you're next.
All right, can you hear me? Am I being heard?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
All right, great. A couple of questions. So everyone who has spoken has talked about affordable housing, and the word is used so much and so often, I really don't know what it means. It means different things to different people. So could each developer talk about what that mix looks like in their development? What's affordable? No one's talking about market rate or housing above 100% AMI or above 80% AMI. So can there be some discussion around their vision for the unit mix.
Before we get to that, let me just respond in saying that housing in Woodlawn is subject to the Woodlawn affordable preservation of affordable housing ordinance. So, so these developments will be required to have a certain percentage of affordable units as determined by that ordinance. I believe it's
right.
Right.
No, I get that. And I think in your comment, you mentioned a third affordable, but I know that there have been some conversation around going beyond that. So I'd like to hear what their vision is, what are they planning to do? And that doesn't conflict with the ordinance.
Bill, do you want to take this first?
No, go ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Dwayne, for the question. I think, nothing is written in stone at this point and really have to work out a lot of details. But generally, in an affordable housing development that's financed with tax credits, you're going to see sort of the maxing out of market rate units at anywhere between 30 and 40%. So I think that's probably what you can expect to see from a Michael's DL3 development, is 30 to 40% of the units being market rate in nature. And then the balance of those units would probably be split anywhere from 30 to 80% AMI. There's a good thing is the IRS just provided clarification on income averaging for tax credit projects, so that you could sort of offset some of your 80% units with 60% units, or sorry, with 30% units. So I think you'd see a real blend of units anywhere from 30 to 80% on the affordable side, and then market rate, whatever the market would bear. And then also just to share that we'd be looking at a mix of unit sizes as well. So we could attract families, roommates, small families, and individuals into the building as well.
Appreciate that response, Greg.
I'll just interject real quick. We have a request that if we are using acronyms, please elaborate a bit on what we're referring to. Thank you.
Sure. I mean, I don't have a lot to add from Greg. I mean, we haven't figured out our unit mix. I suspect it will be a little different from what Michael's and DL3 might do, but it would be a range. There would be some that are affordable to sort of lower income folks, but being able to go up to 80% AMI, which for people who don't know what that means, that's area median income, and the area median income for a family of four is $104,000 in Chicago. So 80% of that is about, just over $80,000. So you're talking about a range of affordability that serves, a lot of, sort of working class folks as well. If you cover that range from very low income all the way up to 80, that's a range that we consider what we call workforce housing. But again, part of what we'll figure out over the next month is, what do we think that unit mix should be? What do we think the community wants that unit mix to be? So that's one of the things that community feedback is really important for.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay. Next person with their hand up is David Knuckles. David, if you'd like to go ahead and unmute yourself, you can ask your question. Okay, David might be still working on his audio. David, if you're able to unmute, go ahead and jump in. We can come back to you in a little bit. Let's move on here to Marcus Gill, please.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, thank you.
So the questions I had, I put in the chat. Longtime resident of the Woodlawn community, and glad to see this development that's actually taking place in Woodlawn. So question I have for the developers is kind of two questions. What percentage of MBE and WBE businesses have to be utilized for this proposed development? And also the second question is regarding, when you're speaking of economic development, what is the proposed plans for Woodlawn residents and businesses that need contracts and now actually need to be hired on this development pre, post, and after the development is completed? I would like for the developers to provide a plan for this and a level of commitment to the community. So I'd like for the developers to respond to those two questions.
So I can jump in on behalf of our team. So the standard requirements with respect to MBE, WBE for the city of Chicago is 26% minority business enterprise and 6% women business enterprise utilization. So for our team, that is always baseline. So we always look to be somewhere over 40% for as much as possible. So that's the first part. Second part, with respect to engage in the community, construction doesn't happen without the community, right? And that's just it. So on the front end, so when we talk about the roundtables that happen and hearing feedback from the community from the perspective of, you know, what the deal will look like, that's one part of it. But as we move into construction, when we talk about, you know, things like hosting, subcontractor outreach, seminars to ensure that we are being made aware of the broader subcontractor community, especially always focusing on those businesses that are within the community, right? So the way that we keep construction labor dollars within the community is you employ those businesses from the community and you employ tradesmen from the community, right? So if we look at hosting those subcontractor outreaches on the front end of the project, as well as those community hiring fairs, so we can get an idea of what we have in the community in terms of those residents that are in fact union card holders or have some level of construction experience, looking to be sponsored into the union, et cetera, as well as looking at how we can create those offsite opportunities for those non-skilled trades, because we know that when we look in some of the communities, especially in Woodlawn, that you don't have a large cadre of union card holders there. So it's taken a holistic approach. And part of that is also partnering with those businesses within the communities to see how they can open up and provide resources as well. So that would be our immediate approach. Of course, we are always open to receiving feedback from the community, because even in having a baseline approach to this type of situation, we always want to be open to receiving feedback from the community in terms of what the community thinks could be a better path forward.
All right, thank you. I speak from a business perspective. My mom started a business, Dustin Clean Maintenance Company. We're housed in Woodlawn, been in business for 26 years. And it's a lot of development that takes place within the Woodlawn community. And I would like to just see more businesses from the Woodlawn community have opportunities on these projects, not only my business, but other businesses within the community. And also finding creative ways to expand that portal that we can make it inclusive for people to have that pipeline to get those union cards and whatever they may need so they can acquire those jobs. And are you familiar with the City of Chicago's Mentor Protege program, where larger construction companies they adopt smaller businesses with a vision to grow those businesses within the community. So I think that'd be a great aspect for these developers that's coming in with larger, even as construction, whatever it may be, to adopt these smaller businesses within the community as a mentor protege, where they can learn new disciplines and expound in or grow their businesses. So these are some things in creative ways and ideas that I hope the developers can take home with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Okay, I think at long last we have the mentee set up now, so we want to hear from obviously everyone in attendance. So I think this will be a good way to hear from all the participants here.
Okay, I'm back.
We're finally ready.
Hello?
I can we hold this just for one more minute, David? We'd like to try to get input on this this mentee session. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, thanks, John. Yeah, so we're going to try to do it here directly from the website. If everybody could again use the link that John put in the chat, we are getting responses now. It looks like it's at least working here. So if you can see my screen, some of what we're seeing that folks have typed in is food desert, hyper local, unaffordable, changing. Okay, here we go. Yeah, we're getting some good responses now. Dynamic, gentrifying, beautiful, primed. Very good. And this will now allow us to save all of these responses and again share with the team, with development teams. Empty, accessible, oasis, undervalued. We've got, looks like 26 responses. Give it a couple more minutes. One of the things that we've, in our conversations with the Alderman's office and with the working group, we know that Woodlawn is a diverse community of many different interests. And, again, there are interests both for affordable housing and making sure that we are creating a community that doesn't displace existing residents, but also, of course, interest in the home ownership opportunities. So just as a reminder that, that the RFA, the DOH program is a parallel effort to address those as well.
Yeah, I just got in. I put it on my cell phone. I'm having trouble.
All right, David, hold on. You're not muted there, David.
Oh, oops. Let's see.
Okay, Justin, you give this one more minute and go to the next slide.
Yeah. I know we're also mindful we're already over time. If everyone can bear with us for 15 minutes or so. Okay, I'm going to move to the next slide. This looks like maybe people have already responded here. So this is essentially just a litmus test of which of these types of or scales of development do you think is most appropriate for these sites? So you should be able
Justin,
to vote.
I'm still seeing the last question. I don't know about others.
You're seeing the last question on screen or
on my website?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why.
Justin, is there another window that has the actual presentation from NTR?
Yeah, I haven't been able to embed it to get it. Here we go. But it doesn't seem to be.
Oh, if you go to Menti, you'd go from the web And then when you click present and Menti,
Okay.
because there's like a next, like there's a like a button that'll allow you to move everybody to the next.
No, top right, top
It'll
right.
go up to the top right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Correct. So we should now. No, it's still not there. Click back, or just like arrow back, like you're switching to another slide. Okay, click forward one. All right, click forward one more. Yeah, so everybody should have a
Now it's working.
thing that comes up at the top that says presenter has changed slide, and you click go to slide, and then that'll take you to the proper slide.
Thanks, David.
Yep, no worries. Done many Menti boards in the past.
Should have asked you to do it then. We're at 23 responses. Let's try to at least get again to close to 40. This is, I think, helpful for everyone as it's, illustrating that the everybody's got a, slightly different opinion, but there's a good mix here. And again, those single family homes and duplexes would be addressed by the RFA. Okay, we're at 36. Let's try to get to Okay, we're at 40. I think in the interest of time, we've got still a couple of more questions here, and we want to potentially have a little bit more time to circle back to any other live questions. So let's go to the next. So this is where, there's already been some questions about ground floor uses and amenities. This is where, and also really public space. Some have already addressed concerns with parking. Seeing a lot of heavy on the residential courtyards and outdoor access. enhancing public space. Obviously, we feel this is really, really important to the corridor. Let's see if we can get to 40 again. Okay, we're at 40. 42. Looks like we're getting a little bit more participation each time. That's good. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide in the interest of time. This is a sort of similar question, but different format. So that might help us kind of compare. So you can choose up to 3 options here. And hopefully these reference images are helpful. Getting quicker with the responses. Okay, great. We're at 40 again, so we're pretty consistent with the rest of our questions. And it looks like, again, public outdoor space is a winner. So in the interest of time, this is super helpful. We now have this data, and we will be able to again share it with the teams. If anybody has any further comments or questions, or further thoughts, or even reference images, again, I'd highly encourage everyone to go to the website that we've set up. Let me close out of this and bring that back up. So again, and let me put it in the chat. Make sure everybody has it. So again, and then you're also capable of liking other people's reposts or posts or commenting on them. So this could be a great tool, and will allow, if you've got some thoughts as you go home and you think about it and want to come back to this in the next several weeks, please do. And the more input that we can get, the better. John, Gerardo, do we want to take any last questions here before we try to wrap up? We're about almost 15 minutes over.
Yeah, unfortunately, apologies. I think we're sort of a little beyond our time here. We will
do what we can to respond to the questions that are in the Q&A on the website. And I think, Justin, if you want to put your email up again, we can submit questions on email to you, I believe, right?
Yes, that's fine. Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody again, members of the community, Alderman Taylor, and our development teams for being able to join us. You know, it's getting late, at least for those of us in Chicago. So we hope this has been helpful, both for the development teams and the community. Again, we look forward to further feedback. And, you know, just to reemphasize again, this is just the beginning, or at least the very early stages of this process. And there will be many opportunities to continue to engage and shape the vision for 63rd Street. So with that, I will close it out unless, again, any of my colleagues have any other final words.
Thanks to everyone.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Great.
Thanks a lot.
So.
Thank you.